Hi everyone. Let's talk about Bingo Night, our next assignment. So as you can see, I've created a Bingo Night top folder in Section 3 class. And I have in my Bingo Night top folder, per Susan Bloom's Digital Asset Management handout, I have 01 BN Media, 02 BN Premiere Profiles, 03 BN SFX, 04 BN GFX, 05 BN MX, 06 BN Documents, and 07 BN Exports. And as you can see, all my media is in here. All of the files you're going to need for Bingo Night that you brought down from the OneDrive folder, the SharePoint folder that I have for you. And I also have, and you can see all of the media is by number as they were given to us by EditStock. And we also have an MX, which is our music, and documents. Okay, we'll of course put our exports in exports, and anything we might want to bring in, we can put in SFX or GFX. So that is how I've organized my Bingo Night top folder. Now for 1 through 6, scenes 1 through 6, we're going to need these 6 folders, and we're going to import them into Premiere. So let's just jump into Premiere right now. I've already created my project. And you can see I named it Penton_Jennifer, Bingo Night 1 through 6 for the pages, and then 2023 09 08. And down here you can see that I've already made my project, my bins, okay? So my bins, and let's just make this a little bit smaller so you can see everything. Actually, everything is set up so you can see it. 00 sequences, 01 footage, SFX, etc., down to titles and credits. Okay, I've already imported my footage, and I left the footage in the folders 1 through 6. And if I double click, you'll see I have everything here. And as you know, if you hit the tilde button on your keyboard, and I'm sorry this isn't showing you, it should, but it's the tilde button just below escape, it will make everything large so we can see it. So let's just do that again, tilde. So as you can see, if I go into footage and into my bin, here is scene 1 right here with some room tone as well. I've also imported my audio, and I just brought everything in from the entire movie, which is about 14-15 minutes. So that's where I am starting off. When I created the name for this video, I hit Command Copy so that when I wanted to make my sequences, I could easily make my first sequence with this name. So let's double click, go into the sequences bin, and make a new sequence. As you may recall, there are different ways to do it, but new item at the bottom here, sequence, ... and then we want to go to the Settings tab, Settings, Editing Mode. We're going to change that to Custom. And we're going to go with 23.976 frames per second, 1920 by 1080 square pixels, no fields, 23.976 FPS timecode, REC 709. All of this is good. And we're going to name our sequence. We're going to copy. We're going to just drag over sequence 3. There actually is no sequence. It's just that I've been practicing here. And hit Command V. And now I have Penton_Jennifer Bingo Night 1 through 6 and the date. And I'm also going to add V1 for version 1. Click on OK. And now in our sequences bin, we have our first sequence, which is named properly. Remember that the other thing we want to do is make sure that our settings here, if I go to Preferences, Premiere Pro, Preferences, Media, are set to default media scaling set to frame size, because we are going with a video that's 1920 by 1080 pixels, so it is high definition, and the The clips, I believe, might be smaller, so they're now all going to be set to frame size. It'll all be okay. But let's just double check. Are they going to be smaller? I think, let's see, if I look here and I go here to our footage, let's go into 1. They are they 1920 by 1080? Let's see. They are. So I didn't have to worry about making sure I set to frame size, but it's good to practice. All right, let's go back, bring this back down, make it big. Now, how do we handle this script? So what we have here with this project is we have a lined script accompanying the project, which means that our director wants us to follow along and use certain takes for this project, okay? So what we need to do is look at the lined script. And you have a lot of documents, you can peruse those in your free time, but I'm going to really show you how the lined script works. Now, right up here, we had some editor's log notes here. And these, unfortunately, on this line script are kind of confusing. These are circled takes, which means that the director wanted the script supervisor to circle these takes because they were the best takes. But the way they're laid out and set up here kind of are confusing and don't really work for this project. Also, like for OTS, over the shoulder, there's a typo. So I don't want you to get confused by this. I want you to just focus on this section, the lined script, okay? And you can have some freedom here to utilize the line script the way you want to. So let's just talk about it for a moment. This line, okay, these lines are showing what takes you're going to use and what takes you're not going to use, okay? So you'll notice that when there's a straight line, that means you can use a 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, but when there's a squiggle, you're not going to use those takes. So for example, right here, down here, line 1, the manager says, "I'm sorry your son lost his job. I truly am." Well, you're only going to use 1A or 1B, okay? So just to explain a little bit better, let's take a look. And then when Ethel says, "Why can't you be more understanding?" you can use 1C, 1D, or 1E. So let's take a look here. And I'm going to look at our footage. So I'll go back into Premiere. If we look at our footage, and let's just make it a little bit bigger because I do want to actually look at it. And I want to look at it bigger than if it's in just the project panel. So let's go back to the circle, right back to the line script. So let's look at the manager. "I'm truly sorry your son lost his job. I'm sorry your son lost his job. I truly am." 1A or 1B. Okay, so let's look at 1A or 1B. So we have a 1A, 1A1, a 1A2, and a 1A3, and a 1A4. Okay, so scene 1A has 4 takes. Okay, so if we look here and we look back at the line script here, okay, we have 1A and 1B. Go back. We have 1, 2, 3, or 4 for 1A. Take 1, take 2, take 3, or take 4. For 1B, we have take 1, take 2, or take 3. Okay? But if we go back here and we look at least at the first circled takes, we see that for scene 1A, take 3 and take 4 were definitely preferred by the director, so that makes sense. When you get down here, it gets to be confusing, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. But let's try to stick with what the director wanted for 1A by using take 3 or take 4. And by the way, I apologize. I think earlier I was calling these takes. These are scenes. These are the takes. Okay. So, my bad. But let's continue. I don't want to have to redo the video. I think we're on a good roll here. And I think the way I'm making it, you should understand it pretty well from here on out. So let's continue. The first thing to note, though, is that according to the script, one thing that really stands out is that they wanted us to use one F in the very beginning, before the manager says, "I'm sorry your son lost his job, I truly am." So let's look at what one F is. One F, scene number 1F, is a close-up shot of Ethel's earring. And that's going to become important later. So, just a little review. V1 and A1 on the left are the source monitor. V1 and A1 on the right are the program monitors. And so I'm going to turn off A2 and A3 just to avoid any confusion. And I'm just going to click right here. And I'm going to hit L. Okay. And so I can maybe hit I to mark in. Go a little bit further, hit O to mark out, hit the period to overwrite, remember overwrite, into the timeline. Remember, because nothing's in the timeline yet, I can just overwrite, okay? Now we are going to be adding music. We are going to be, making it sound really good. There's music that does go with this beginning part. And remember, if I double click here, I can name the audio. So I could name this, doesn't, okay, hold on, sorry. Okay, so rename, and I can call this main dialogue if I want to, right? And then I could call this one rename main video, something to that effect. And if I don't want to see these names, I can just double click to close them. Double click to close them, okay? All right, so now we have her earring. And looking back to the line script, let's make sure we turn on the link selection toggle. And if I hit the down arrow, that brings me down over to the beginning. I'm sorry, the down arrow to the end of what I already have put in the timeline. And that is the last edit point because there's nothing else beyond that. So moving right along in the line script, the next thing is I am sorry your son lost his job. We have an a 1A, scene 1A or a scene 1B that we can use. If we look up here, now is where it gets a little weird. It looks like it's telling us to go from 2 to 1 to 2 to 3, but when you look at it, it doesn't really work that well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to ignore this section. I'm going to know that I can use 1A or 1B. And I'm going to look at what those are. So let's go back to Premiere. And I'm going to go to 1A. Okay, and let's take a look here. Let's see, 1A or 1B. Let's take a look. So we have this, 3 or 4. Let's just take a look here. I'm speeding it up. Okay, so let's back it up just slightly. I'm using the back arrow, and I'm going to hit I.
I'm really sorry that your son lost his job. I truly am.
Okay, and I'm going to mark out, hitting O on my keyboard. Let's just look back at this here. 1A3 and 1A4. Let's go back to the script. Okay, so 1A and 1B. Let's just go back up here. Oops, sorry, it's a little bit crazy here. Okay, so 1A, we have 3 and 4. So we're good. We can use, let's just stick with 3 or 4 since they are circled. Okay. And that's this. Okay, so that is 1A3. Let's look at 1A4. Which do we like better? This makes, he seems like he cares more here. Remember, emotion is the most important thing. Okay, so that's nice. Okay, and of course that's over her shoulder here. Let's look at 1B. Let me just take a look here. 1B is also we can also use 1B, and if we go back to 1B here, you know, it gets a little weird. Okay, so let's go back and just say, hey, we can use any of the 1Bs. There's a take 1, a take 2, and a take 3. So what do we like the best? Let's look at 1B1, 1B take 1. Well, now we're more at a close-up. So do we want to start off intimate? Do we want to start off a little bit further back with the over-the-shoulder shot? This is where your creativity comes in. So you can have some creativity in this. Ooh, the camera's searching. Okay, so I'm hitting the L on my keyboard. And I'm hitting it twice to get to the point where he's going to talk. Here we go. Now I hit J, and I'm going to mark in I. Hit I on my keyboard. Okay, mark out. All right, so that's pretty nice. A little more intimate, like I said. And let's see how this one is going. Okay, so this we have to go back. Mark in. Mark in again. Notice I marked in again because I noticed that I marked in too early and it moved my in point over to the right.
I'm sorry, I just lost his job. I truly am.
So that's a little bit more exasperated. And, you know, we can even put notes in here if we want to. We would scroll to we would go to the right. Oops. We would go to the right. And there should be a place for comments. You can use or description right here. And you can move these columns over. So there's you could put good. You can you know, check the good take box. So there's a lot of things we can do to, you know, while we're editing to decide, well, which one do I like the most? So this is 1B2. And there's a 1B3. I kind of like the exasperated one. I've watched this many times, so let's just see here. Mark in.
I'm really sorry that your son lost his job. Okay, I truly.
Seems a little bit cold, which might be okay, but I think I'm going to go with this one here. And I'm going to bring it into the timeline by hitting the period. Boop. Okay, so now we have this, right? And we are going to add music.
I'm sorry, I just lost his job. I truly.
Okay, now maybe it's too long, but why don't we get a rough cut in there before we start shortening and trimming things? I'll go to the very next part here where Ethel is going to respond. And let's just go back to the line script. And we're going to ignore everything but the line script from now on. So she says, then why can't you be more understanding? So this could be 1C, 1D, or 1E. So let's go to 1C. You'll notice 1C has a lot of takes, 1D has a lot of takes, and 1E has a lot of takes. So let's take a look here. This is pretty far away. So if we were to start off with the manager far away, it would make sense for Ethel to be far away. This over the shoulder shot, kind of a wide, more of a wide shot. So let's see what we might have with like this close up. And we also have even a more close-ups, even a closer up shot. So I'm going to go here and see what this is. And notice how we're going to hear the manager talk and then see her reaction.
And there's something to say Mrs. Jack. I truly am.
Okay, mark in.
Why can't you be more understanding?
That's actually really good. Mark out. I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to hit the period. Okay, and then let's go back to the manager. And as you can tell, we can go back to even the take that we just used or choose a different one. Let's try, I think it was 1B2, which is what I used. Also, just to let you know, you should be able to see, let's see here, all the recent ones. If I click right here, you can see all the recent takes that were used, and you can load them right back in to the source monitor, which is really nice, rather than having to search for them down here. Okay, so he had said, I'm sorry your son lost his job. Why can't you be more understanding? Let's continue.
Why can't you be more understanding?
Okay, now I'm going to purposely start it a little early so I can show you how to use that ripple trim. I'm going to mark in, and the out point goes, the in and out points go away.
We've been understanding.
Okay, mark out. Hit the period or comma, doesn't matter at this point. We've been understanding, okay? Let's just see what the line script is telling us right now. We've been understanding. He'll find another one, okay? Well, let's see what we've got so far. So remember, this is just page 1. You're going to go all the way to page 6, which is going to be in the shower scene where Vivian says okay. But let's take a look at what we have here.
I'm sorry that your son lost his job. I truly am.
Why can't you be more understanding?
We've been understanding.
Okay, so how would we trim this down and make it work better? With our previous assignment, it was much more free-flowing, right? This we really need to make tight and make work, right? We want our continuity to be really good. Okay, so right here, I think there's a big pause. Now, oftentimes you do want big pauses, but they can really slow a movie down. So in this case, I'm going to trim this. So I'm going to go over here, and there's a real pause there. I think maybe still give them a little bit of a pause, but not so much. So I can use ripple edit and just drag right to there, and it cuts everything off before that point. Let's watch it again.
I'm sorry that your son lost his job. I truly am.
Why can't you be more understanding?
Now, as you can see, we heard her say standing, and we're going to just cut it right to this point. I think I might have gotten just the right point. And we also heard a little bit of crinkly sounds from the boom mic, so we don't want to hear that. Let's see.
Understanding.
We've been understanding.
Okay, let's try that again. There's something going on here that's weird. We can also drag this down so we can see the waveform better. And we want to make sure we don't hear any sounds from the boom.
More understanding.
We've been understanding.
So there's a little bit going on here. So I'm going to bring this in. And you can also do things where, and let's zoom in so we can get a better, I'm using the zoom bar here on the bottom. We can zoom in so we can really see what's going on. Okay, so let's see. So there was like a little bit of a hiccup there. Let's just get rid of this. And you know that the sound wave is these lines. These are the sound waves. So when you don't see any wave, you know that there's silence. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and let's see if that worked. There's you notice there's a click sound. I think it's right here. So I'm going to just get rid of that. Now, sometimes you're going to do J cuts and L cuts to deal with those issues, which I'll show you in just a bit. But let's see what I have now.
I'm sorry that your son lost his job. I truly
I think you can more understanding.
We fully understand.
That's actually really working out. It's working very well, right? And I even like the pause here that she's making. But what if we wanted to do something a little more interesting where maybe we see a little bit more of her reaction while he's talking? Okay, so that would be, well, you have what are called split edits, okay? And to make a split edit, you would do this. You would disconnect the linked selection toggle, and while he's talking, we're going to drag her facial expression over to the left, creating what's called an L cut. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I disconnected video from audio. I'm going to click over here so I haven't selected anything. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a new tool, which is actually here under Ripple Edit. It's called Rolling Edit Tool. And I'm going to drag her over to the left so we can actually see her face. Okay, so now as the manager's talking, we have an L cut where we can see her frustration, her sorrow, her worry as he's speaking. L cut, see, because it looks like an L. All right, if I had done it the opposite way, it would be a J cut. So, because it looks like a backwards L or a J. But I want an L cut because I want to see her reaction as the manager's talking. We hear him talking, but we see her reaction. So let's take a look.
I'm sorry that your son lost his job. I truly
I think you can more understanding.
We fully understand.
Now let's take a look at that again. It doesn't feel quite right. Let's see.
That your son lost his job. I truly
So maybe we're going to bring this over a little bit. Let's undo this right here and make it shorter. So I don't want her frown to be as long. So I'm going to change the length of this clip before I make the L cut and see if that works. So I'm going to link these, the video with the audio up again. I'm not going to use rolling edit. I'm going to go back to Ripple Edit. I'm going to shorten her and then, oops, hold on, let's make sure I can select both. There we go. Shorten her to about here. And then that long pause where we see her face will make sense. Here we can see the waveform dies, and right at this point he says, I truly am. So I disconnect video from audio again. I change Ripple Edit to Rolling Edit. What Rolling Edit does is it will make a clip, if we're rolling to the left and it makes this clip shorter, it will make this clip longer, okay? Ripple Edit wouldn't do that, and neither would just the selection tool, which is like a, like a basic overwrite edit. Rolling Edit is really good for that because if it makes one clip shorter, it makes the other one longer. As you can see, as this one's getting shorter, the other one's getting longer, and we're not going out of sync. We're not going out of synchronization. All right, so that should be good. Be careful with the Ripple Edit tool. The Ripple Edit tool can cause you to go out of sync, but the nice thing about Premiere is it will show you right away if it's out of sync with these big red letters, which you may have seen when you were working on the kids' video mashup. But let's see now. He's as he pauses, we're going to cut to her. So let's see. We have an L cut very nicely, and let's see what happens.
I'm sorry that your son lost his job. I truly am.
That's working much better.
We barely understand.
So, what now? Is it nice to see his face when he says "I truly am"? Yes, but all throughout movies, there are a lot of J cuts and L cuts because we want to see reaction shots, and because she's the main character, it would be good to see her while she is reacting to the horrible thing he's telling her. He's basically kicking her out of the retirement home. Okay, now let's add some music. So I'm going to go back here to the project and go to, let's close footage for now, and open up the music bin. And the retirement home audio is what we're going to hear. This is very sad, right? So we might want to bring this in the beginning, or maybe have it come in later, where it's going to be something we're going to have to decide, right? What we could do is, instead of showing her earring, we could show just the titles. Now the earring is important. It's foreshadowing that she's going to hawk her jewelry. But the thing is that actually in the final version of this movie, they don't show it because it just didn't work out. So what we could do is we could put a title here and have the music start at this point. But let's go ahead and put A1 down to A2. Turn off A1, turn off V1, and just start with the music right away and see if that feels right. We're going to mark in at the beginning. I remember my salad bowl analogy, right? We want to cut in up in the source monitor and then bring it down into the timeline. So what we're going to do here is I'm up here in the source monitor and I press this. So I haven't gotten through the whole conversation because I don't want to bore you. You're going to get all the way through the entire scene, and then you'll figure out how this music best works with the scene. So I'm going to mark out here O, and now I want to bring this clip down to A2. So I turn off all my video on this side and my audio, and this only has audio on the left, so there's nothing really to see. On the left side, it's just audio 1. And now I'm going to overwrite. Okay, I'm definitely not going to insert because I want it to go right to the beginning. And if I inserted, there's a chance it could push everything over. And I want it to overwrite. I want it to go right to this point. Okay, so let's see how this is playing now. Okay. So what we probably do in this case is maybe show her earring, maybe not, it's up to you. But I would probably get rid of these two clips and have your titles here, and maybe move the entire video over so that the beginning can just play before he starts talking. Cut this off and then bring in the rest of the music later as she's, maybe lower volume. But let's see. So we're going to move all of this, I'm sorry, over to the right. We're going to have to change the volume. We're going to have to make it all work with the, with the piece, with the project. But remember, I can click on here and I can just grab all of this stuff. I'm turning off these, but it's not going to matter. It's going to still select this unless I lock the track. Then I can move it over. Or I could simply just draw a lasso around it. There are lots of ways you can do this, remember. Okay, so let's see if this works. And now we have space for our title. And like I said, there are things we could show. We could show her earring. I think there might be some other shots we could show. But most of this is really, most of this footage here in bin 1 is just going to be them talking. It's not going to be anything that we could use for the background. Okay, but anyway, let's take a look here, see how this is shaping up.
I'm sorry. I just said lost.
So what could be cool is, let's unlock this now. Maybe bring him in even later, and this time I'll just use the lasso and the selection tool. So actually it's all set up already. Maybe bring this over a little bit more, maybe for a break, maybe at this point, and then I could bring the volume of the audio down. And using the selection tool, I can just bring this over. Okay, and let's see how this is working. So this would be the title.
I'm sorry.
So maybe bring this up to here. So as you can see, editing is a slow process, but it's a lot of fun. And here maybe I'll just, because it is a sad kind of sound, I think it'll work nicely. So if you may recall, we can use the pen tool to make sure that you can see the rubber band here. And I'm going to click here and bring it down. So we have a little bit of ambiance with the music, but it's not overwhelming the dialogue so we can hear him well. We always want to make sure we're watching the meters as well, possibly using loudspeakers, etc. So let's take a look.
I'm sorry. I just said lost this job. I truly.
Why can't you be more understanding?
We didn't understand.
So her voice is a little low, so we could bring her up, and we don't even need the pen tool at this point. And let's just see if we may have to bring him up too. Now, just keep in mind that you want to hear the people talking. You don't want this music to mask them. So that's why I'm bringing them up, but you don't want to be too high. The sweet spot with your meters is between about -6, -18, okay? So let's make sure that we're not hitting the 0, which would mean that we would be clipping the audio and it would sound awful.
I'm sorry. I
Oh,
just said lost
so
this job.
that's way too loud. It may not sound too loud when you're watching it here, but when you see those red lights light up, you know it's way too loud. And when it's exported, it's going to sound awful. So let's see. And we can also do audio mixing in the audio tool. Later on, I can show you how to do that, but let's take a look here.
I'm sorry. I just said lost this job.
This is good.
I truly.
Why can't you be more understanding?
We didn't understand.
All right, pretty good. And that music gives it a nice ambiance, makes us understand there's a sad thing happening, but it is a comedy, so in almost a funny way.
I just said lost this job. I truly.
Why can't you be more understanding?
There you go. That's
We
good.
didn't understand.
Okay, and we would just continue on. And we can cut the music up as well. Like if you wanted to move it over and you wanted an area where there wasn't any music, you can just use the razor tool. It's not necessarily necessary to use it much, but if you do want to cut a clip, that's how you would do it. And once you cut the clip, you will see these two little triangles, which are showing that these are called through edits, where the clip on the right side of the cut is the next frame after the clip on the left side of the cut. And this is also like in your menus, I think show through edits has to be turned on to be able to see it. Not sure where it is. It might be in the wrench. Show, but I'll look it up for you. I don't think it's here, but anyway. Oh yeah, there it is. Show through edits. Yay. Okay. All right, so I could then move this over and put it somewhere else, but you get the idea. That's how to cut a clip. But with these clips, you don't need to cut. You just need to use ripple edit, even the selection tool, or rolling edit to move things around. I'm going to teach you more about the other things later, but those are really important. Okay, let's make a title. And I'm going to show you a little more advanced way to do that than I showed you last time for the kids mashup video. Let me save. Don't forget to save often. And I'm going to go here. Let's just get a little fancy with this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close this. Actually, you know what? I'll make the title in the next video. And then we'll go on from there. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has been helpful.